Good morning, friends, and welcome to another episode of Simply Living Smart. I'm so glad to have you with me this morning. I so look forward to this all week long to bring you tips and skills and information that will help you to go out into the world and share what you learn with others. And today is no exception. I know that sometimes we're going to be talking about food and organization. In the end, it all has to do with just creating lives for ourselves that are joyful and that are connected and that make us feel more accomplished and successful. So today I'm excited to dive in, but before I do, as I wait for others to join, I just want to express how grateful I am to all of those of you who've reached out this week to give support and who have expressed excitement about what we're doing here with this launch of Simply Living Smart 2.0. I feel your support, and I am so glad that you're out there and that you're being encouraged by what you're learning. And I want to remind you that everything from now on with Simply Living Smart will be posted to YouTube. And we will be doing these Facebook Lives on Saturdays at 10 o'clock Mountain Daylight Time. So you can join me. They're usually about 30 minutes long and just a good way to start your day and to share your thoughts. I do want to encourage you to leave a comment if you have a comment while we're giving this training, or if you want to leave a really kind review. That always helps because I would love to be able to grow our online community and make sure that everybody has a chance to listen and to share. And so I welcome that. Thank you so much. And Holly, nice to have you with us. And Stacia, all my old friends. I just love seeing your faces and knowing that you're here supporting me. Thank you. I hope everyone's doing well here. It's a beautiful sunny day in Salt Lake City, and we've got lots of hikers and bikers going about their business, and so it's just a lovely day, and I hope that yours will be too. So today we're going to jump into 8 healthy habits that we can adopt to feel more grounded, to feel more intentional, and just overall more joyful in our lives. And I have lots of things that I've written down. You know, one of my biggest joys in life actually is researching and watching people and learning things that I can share with you. So I write a lot of things down, and I want to make sure that I don't miss any of it. So I'll be looking down a little bit. But if you have comments or suggestions, or you want to ask questions, feel free to do that in the comments, and we will take care of you. So let's dive into this. I love what Gandhi said about happiness. He says the definition of happiness is when what you think and what you say and what you do are all in harmony. Isn't that beautiful? So this is really kind of how we can gauge our happiness. Is what we're thinking and what we're doing and what we're feeling and what we're saying all aligned? And the Dalai Lama, I love him too, and what he says is happiness is not something that is ready-made. It comes from your own actions, and that is true as well. We are in control of our actions and how we react, and we're going to talk about that today. And I want to remind all of you who are going to be joining us live that I've got a special free download for you today, and you are going to love it. I've used it for quite some time. I've given it away as gifts, and I think it's something that you're going to find to be super helpful in your life as well. And we'll get to that about the halfway point, so stay tuned. You know, I find that there are people in the world who are super resilient, and then I find there are people in the world who tend to attract more drama and more negativity. And so we have to kind of analyze, and sometimes we're each of those people, right? So in order to really feel fulfilled and happy, we have to determine which of those categories do we fall into. And typically I find that people who are happier are always wanting to learn. They're wanting to kind of stretch their imagination, their knowledge. They're willing to try new things. They're not afraid to discover new talents. And even as far as finding coaches that they can kind of gravitate to that can help them on their journey, whatever that journey might be. So these tend to be the characteristics of happier people. Those who are maybe not so happy are people who live a little bit more of a stagnant life. Maybe they're those who like to be entertained instead of being the one to find the entertainment or to find that direction in their life. a lot of times exploring is really not for them. They'd rather just sit on the couch and complain about what's not right or what's not fair. And so it's easy to kind of, get into that mindset if we're not active. And this is why I think establishing healthy habits is going to keep us away from that side of the fence and make us more generally happy people. So we're going to dive in with habit number 1. And habit number 1 is creating life-fulfilling goals and having a vision for what can be great in your life. Elizabeth, I just want to say hello to you. You're so kind, and you've been on Simply Living Smart for a long time, and I love you. Okay, life-fulfilling goals. What is so great about creating goals? And sometimes this can be an overwhelming thing for us to think about, right? But I feel like it's more important actually to make goals that are small baby steps instead of goals that are huge and maybe years in the future. And the reason I think baby steps are so important is because as human beings, it's important for us to feel like we're doing something, like we're progressing some way, even if it's little tiny steps. We can ask ourselves questions like, what is my purpose? What are my talents? What are the things that I've heard people tell me that I'm good at, that I might want to pursue? Maybe a question could be, if I wasn't being paid to do this, what would I do? And how much joy would I get out of it? So maybe in determining your life's journey or your life's goals, maybe you look inside and you say, where do I see myself in 10 years? And how do I make the decisions every single day to ensure that that's the direction I'm taking and that I'm going to land there? So it's important to visualize. I have this darling daughter-in-law, and she, a few years ago, wanted to become a yoga instructor. And I was so impressed with her because she was one who said, you know what, I'm just going to take the training. She took an intensive, I think it was maybe 2 or 3 month course. And she really dove in. I mean, she was in school still, she was still working, but she made the time because she felt that that goal was really important to her. And she, happened to miss family dinners because of that. And we supported her. We thought it was great that she was so driven. And she eventually was able to become that great yoga instructor. And it's a gift. She is a natural. And she really has a way to connect with people. And so it was nice to be able to watch that happen in her life. Well, not only did she reach that goal, she decided at that time, why don't I go a little bit further? Why wouldn't I go and learn how to be a bar instructor and a Pilates instructor? And I was so impressed by her determination, not only that she wanted to, further her skills, but more importantly, because at that time she had been diagnosed with lupus. And this was a challenge for her. I know that she had rough mornings and that her nerves were, hurting her. And she had, there were really hard times. The fatigue set in, but she pushed on and she continues to push on. She's so brave. And even through the pandemic, she's been able to do online yoga classes and really just spread love and spread courage to everybody. And so she's been a real inspiration to me in saying, you know what, just because we have goals and things happen in our lives, we don't just turn them off and say, well, that's probably for someone else. And so I just wanted to share that with you. And hello, Linda and Myrna. It's so nice to have you guys. I've missed you. Okay, I think also when we're talking about goal setting, you might find this in your life, that there are different transitions that we go through in our life that maybe change what those goals might be. So think about maybe marriage or divorce or starting school or graduating from school, having children, being an empty nester. These are all transitions that we go through where we might say, okay, now that I'm in this phase of my life, what are the goals I have for myself? Are they staying the same, or maybe am I changing them up or refining them a little bit? And I have found that when I really self-reflect and think, in this phase of my life, who are the people that are going to be surrounding me? Do my goals affect them or include them? And really kind of taking an inventory and realizing maybe some of the goals you've accomplished, they're done and they're gone and now on to other things. Or maybe you just have found maybe a new life purpose. So it's good for us to look at transitions as brand new starts. And I felt like that's been something for me, especially now with Simply Living Smart. I explained to you a couple weeks ago how I took a 5-month or a 5-year break from Simply Living Smart because I felt like my life purpose at that time was to raise these boys. And now that they're gone and now that they're on their own, I feel like my life purpose is continuing because I love to teach and I love to have this community of like-minded women, especially men too, that really want to create joy in the world, and we share with one another. I've had so many phone calls with you people who are so kind to share what your life goals are, and I am inspired by what you're doing, and I think this is what it's all about. So talking about setting goals, I feel like in order not to be overwhelmed with what we're doing in goal setting, it's important for us to learn to live in the moment. So consider how you live in the moment. That could be just deciding every day that you're going to smile, that you're going to have a positive attitude. I sometimes ask myself, what am I going to conquer today? And there are people in the world who are much stronger, much smarter, much more accomplished than I am. So I think that what I conquer might be way smaller and less significant than maybe what you're conquering. But at the same time, I put that challenge out to myself because I know that if I look for things to conquer or problems to solve, that I'm getting closer and closer to my goals. I'm becoming stronger mentally, emotionally, and then I can take on more and I can be more successful if I just live in the moment. I think of just everyday things that we do in our life. What about just the mundane tasks that we do? I love, for example, and this may sound strange, folding warm laundry. To me, that's being in the moment. That's enjoying that I'm doing something for my family. They're gonna love to have these clean clothes. It's gonna smell so yummy. And just simple things like that. I love my morning walks and I love to look at nature. And I love to remember that at the essence is who we are. We're just creatures of nature. And what in our lives can we learn to love? Even our work, our job, our job. If you're still in a full-time job, what can you find in that job that you love or in the people that you work with? And I think if that's always our focus, we can learn to live in the moment instead of wishing it was over and how much time do I still have to be here at the office? So those are maybe just things to consider. Okay, number 2, create healthy relationships. Now, this is something I think we can always work on and we'll probably be working on for our entire lives. And I think one of the most important things about relationships is learning how to set boundaries. And I think that's different for everyone, but I feel that the times in my life where I felt the most calm and the most peace is when I recognize that the relationships that aren't working, I'm letting them go. And it's okay to do that. And it's okay to understand that saying no is not always a bad thing. It's watching out for yourself. And we're going to talk about self-care in just a minute and being our biggest cheerleader. But as far as relationships go, consider some of the relationships that you have in your life. I have, and I explained this to you because maybe this is also why I'm not a big social media fan, and I haven't been for a long time, and now I'm just learning how to get on social media to do this for you. It's not to really, dive into everybody's business because I feel like I care, but I don't have the bandwidth to really dive into every little story. But I have learned what my bandwidth is and how I want to be involved in people's lives. And for me, it's much easier to hop on a phone call and have a conversation with someone than to seek out their social media channel and wonder what they're doing every moment of the day. So I know that for me, that works. I've had situations in my own family where I've had to set boundaries because I felt literally, sick or anxious about certain relationships, and it wasn't good for me. It wasn't healthy for me. It wasn't serving me. So I had to just be very straightforward and say, no, not now. Or, I need some time out. And that's okay. That's actually healthy to do. Because if you surround yourself with people who bring value to your life, if you know that you're bringing value to others' lives, that helps you both grow. And I think it's okay to sift through relationships and kind of evaluate them and say, how is this going to be better for both of us? And I think then you kind of gain your control back and you feel like you have a say in your life and in your life plan. Do you agree with me? Is that something across the board that other people agree with? I'd like to hear your comments. So I think one of the things that we, especially as women, find challenging is there are so many opportunities for us to say yes to things. People just, you know that you're a yes person. And I happen to be one of those who, yes, I'll do that. Yes, I'll help you with this. And I've realized that sometimes in my life that hasn't served me well because people can take advantage of the yes. So I've learned that instead of saying, I'm sorry, I can't, or, oh, I'm so sorry, instead of saying I'm sorry, I simply say, thanks for asking me, but I've made other plans. Or, oh, it's so kind of you to ask, but I have another engagement. And even if that engagement is being by myself and reading a book, or spending time with my child who needs to talk, or making a meal for my family, you don't have to explain what your engagement is. What you have to just be okay with is to not say yes when it's a lie. And that's okay. That's being truthful. I have a great friend, and her response to me lately when I asked her to go on a bike ride with me was, thanks, I'll take a rain check. And I loved that response because to me it wasn't, no, I don't care, and you go bike by yourself. It was, I'm so interested, let's do it again sometime. But it was a very quick response. There was no, I'm sorry. It was just very friendly. And I felt like that was a great way to say, I'm unavailable. And so come up with your creative ways to guard yourself and to make what you need to get done your first priority. And sometimes that's simply our mental health. Sometimes we can't do everything, and that's okay. All right, let's see. I want to talk now about selfishness, and turning the word selfishness into self-supportishness. And let me explain. I think a lot of times, like I mentioned, especially as women, we want to, or we're brought up to feel that we need to take care of everybody else before ourselves. And if we think of ourselves before other people, that's being selfish. So the question that I want to address is, what happens when we give so much, or we're expected, or we maybe put expectations on ourselves to give so much that our cup is dry and we have nothing more to give? Have you ever heard somebody say, well, if you're not feeling good about yourself, go give to someone else? And I think there's good intention in that. But the truth is, if you have nothing to give, you have nothing to give. And it's important that you recognize that and you say, well, I need a timeout, right? Just like our kids need a timeout. We as nurturers, mothers, caregivers, we need a timeout to just say, it's okay for me to take time for myself. And I've always been somebody that I don't demand it. It's just been given. My husband is very supportive and he knows I need my time out. So I've never felt selfish in doing it. In fact, I feel like when I nurture myself and take care of the things that I need to do in order to, for example, help you and bring these trainings to you and help develop things that I know bring joy to other people, not only does it give me more energy, but I feel like my abilities are magnified because it's something I want to do. I don't feel resentful about it. It's something I really get excited about. So consider, are the things that you're doing out of resentment because you have to or you're expected to? Or are those things planned because you feel great about yourself and you want to contribute to your family or the world or your community? And I think when we're coming from a place of taking care of ourselves and self-supportishness instead of selfishness, because selfishness is simply taking from other people with no regard for them. I think that's what selfishness is. It's not taking time out for you to replenish your supply so that you can help others. And when you think of the ripple effect and the joy that you can bring to other people, and my intention here with Simply Living Smart is always to bring information or share things with you with the intention that you will share it with other people and bring them joy. I hope that that ripple effect happens and it was worth every moment that I spent preparing for it. And I hope that makes sense. And I hope that you can see that in your life as well. Okay, so I feel like really we're of more benefit to the world and to our families if we recognize that our timeouts are really nourishing and going to help them in the end, if that's really what our intention is, if that's how we truthfully think about it. Number 3, this is the third habit that I love, is expressing gratitude and appreciation. Every single one of you that I see on this call are those kind of people, I know. And you have each individually reached out to me to say thank you and to share what's happening in your life that's good. I know that you're nurturers and givers, and I love that. And I thank you for your example. But I think that saying thank you goes a long way. Can you remember maybe the last time you said thank you to someone genuinely? Can you remember the last time someone said thank you to you and what that felt like? I have this darling friend, and every year I forget that this is going to happen. And so it's a nice surprise. But every year on Mother's Day, she drops her friends a text. I'm sure I'm not singled out. I'm sure there are dozens of them. And she will say in that text what she's grateful for about what you've done for her. And she'll have a picture of something you've given her or an experience you've had together. That is such a joy to receive. And you think, you know what, it really doesn't matter. It's just a thing. You just go about your day and you do nice things. But it's so kind a year later to get that confirmation and get that thanks. And it makes me feel like, wow, I should be doing the same thing. So I feel, one of my favorite things in the whole world is to write thank you cards, just hand write them, or to receive them in the mail. And when I receive them in the mail, I put them in a special treasure box. I have a gazillion kind thank you cards from people. And I just think that's to their tribute. I think it's amazing that people will take the time to write and put it in the mailbox and find a stamp and all of that. Sometimes, we live in a really text-happy world. And I'm not discounting that happy, thankful texts are great too. But I love the idea that someone has taken the time to write a thank you note. And so I try to do the same. I think that expressing appreciation forces yourself to look for the good in situations or in other people. So I feel like this is a great quote from Tony Robbins. He says, when you trade expectations for appreciation, you live a totally different life. Isn't that true? And do you find, like I do, that we have such high expectations of our family members? We don't really have such high expectations of our friends, but our family members sometimes get kind of, not the good end of the stick. And so sometimes we feel sad if they haven't reached those expectations. So what I've learned is have lower expectations and then be surprised when they just blow you out of the water, right? I used to have expectations that Mother's Day was going to be a certain way. And all my friends' Mother's Day were a certain way. And I thought, oh, how come mine isn't that way, right? Well, mine was just different. And I kept telling myself, well, having girls might be different on Mother's Day than having boys. I've really learned to not expect anything and just be completely surprised. And that's made me so much happier. And so that's maybe a practice that you can adopt as well. There are simple ways that we can express thank you. And some of the most basic ways are, texting, of course, maybe leaving I love to leave little lipstick messages on the mirror, putting a note in your, child's lunchbox, whatever it is. I think just thinking of simple ways. My friend was so sweet and she brings me flowers out of the blue, or, people bring treats and leave them at the door. So whatever makes you happy will probably make someone else happy as well. All right. So the one last thing that I want to bring up on gratitude and appreciation is the law of attraction. We know that what we put out into the universe will ultimately come back to us. So if we're putting out gratitude, we can certainly expect that great things are going to come back to us. And people who are grateful are going to be attracted to us. And I really, really believe that. I also believe that if we're really good at being grateful for the small things, then we're going to be really good at being grateful for the large things. And it's just a matter of practice. All right, habit number 4, being resilient. This is a great one. Now, we are just coming off, I hope, this great pandemic. I hope that it's getting better. But we have probably all learned lessons in resilience, haven't we? What are some things that maybe you've learned that you didn't know about yourself? What are some things that you recognized, oh man, either I need to change or I'm pretty proud of myself that I was so resilient? Well, I went through both things. I went through pretty proud and I went through not so proud. And my not so proud was, I remember one day, it was probably 2 weeks in, and I thought, this is never going to end. And I was kind of in a sad place and I felt sorry. And what am I going to do with all my time? And these people are in my home. I always have to feed them, right? And to me, it simply wasn't really a joy at the moment. Well, my friend happened to call me and she said, Anitra, how you doing? And I said to her, oh, I'm having a hard time. And I was just really honest with her. Within 20 minutes, she was at my house with flowers in hand to cheer me up. And of course, it was 20 feet away, but it was so kind of her to do that for me. She is resilient. And I said to her, how can you have such a great attitude when everything seems like it's kind of falling around? Don't you have your lows? And she said, you know, Anitra, one of the things I've decided that I'm going to do is I'm going to get out every single day and I'm going to see someone. And I was really impressed by that. And I said, tell me how. And she said, well, just the other day, and I know she wasn't doing this to brag, but she was doing it to buoy me up. The other day, she went to the bakery, bought a bunch of bread, and dropped it off at the neighbors' homes. She would ring the doorbell. She would stand 10 feet back, and she would have a conversation, and she would just see how they're doing. She would check in on how they're feeling. And wow, I was so inspired by her. And I thought, that's amazing that she would lose herself in kind of serving others and making sure that everyone else was okay. And it was actually really nurturing her. And she was so resilient. And she always has been that resilient friend for me. So I really appreciate that in her. I feel that, you know, whenever we slouch or complain or moan, that's never going to solve the problem, right? It may make us feel better for a minute, but it's not making anyone around us feel better. So we have to be conscious of that. I've learned that instead of categorizing things as this is bad or this is good, I finally have come to the point in my life, thankfully, because I'm almost 50 and I should have done this a long time ago, to recognize that everything that happens is exactly the way it should be for my growth. And that's the way I look at everything now. If it's miserable, that's for my growth. If it's joyful, that's for my growth. And I think that unless we look at those things that are hard and learn how to become quickly resilient, we're never going to learn to be really happy and develop those skills that we need to help others as well. So resiliency is huge. I want you to think of a rubber ball or an elastic band. It doesn't just fall to the ground when you drop the rubber ball, right? Or the elastic band hopefully doesn't just snap and break. It's resilient. And so what is your bounce factor? That's what I want to challenge us to think about. What's our bounce factor? How quickly can we bounce back from things that are negative? And do we pull other people into that negativity, or do we say, okay, here's my challenge. This is what I'm going to conquer today. I always told my kids, you know, it's important to be solutions minded. You need to be aware of the things that are out of your control and capitalize on the things that are in your control. So what are those things that are in our control? Well, I think number one, it's the decisions that we make. That is 100% in our control. We might have a bad attitude, we might have a great attitude, but it's the decisions that we make around those events that we are in control of 100%. And that's what's going to change the end result. Now, I think it's important to always maybe have a plan B in the back of our minds. And I'm kind of a perfectionist. I know this about myself. And when I have people over for dinner, for example, I want everything to be beautiful and I want everything to feel just right and look just right. And if I feel that somebody doesn't like what I make, ooh, I just shudder and I think, oh, they're so unhappy, I'm so embarrassed, right? Instead of thinking, you know, it's no big deal. Everybody likes things and everybody doesn't like things a little bit. I'm the same way. I tend to take it a little bit more personally. And I know this about me, so I've been trying a little bit harder to say, everyone is entitled to their opinion and it's okay. So I'm trying to control the way I react to things or people or just statements. And this is good for me. This is a very good learning experience for me. I tend to say, you know, instead of saying, why did this happen to me? I want to have more of a mindset of, why is this happening for me? Do you ever feel that way? Because I really, really believe in the grand scheme of things, everything that is happening in our lives is orchestrated for us to make us stronger, to bring more joy, to help us see maybe even years down the road that that was for our good and that we could be more empathetic with other people and more grateful for the things that are good, right? And so that good versus evil is always a really good balance. So sometimes you can ask yourself, well, what would I change about the situation so it doesn't happen again? Because we can learn from those experiences, can we? We can. And so I think it's important to be able to learn to solve our problems instead of being paralyzed by them. It was about 3 years ago that my youngest son was diagnosed with diabetes. And this was a huge blow. And immediately I thought, well, this is my problem. I maybe haven't nourished him well, or I didn't, enforce that he eat his vegetables every day. And he and I both felt a sense of guilt, like it was our fault. It certainly wasn't our fault. It was something genetic and it would have happened down the road. But I was so impressed with how resilient my son was at 14 years old. Not once did I have to give him a shot. Not once did I have to say, well, let's figure this out together. No, from day one, he said, I've got this. And he very maturely and with a really actually grateful attitude said, Mom, I think I would take that on again if it was my choice. And I was so impressed with that. And I said, Hayden, why? And he said, because I've learned a lot about myself. And I feel like even if I had kids who were diabetic, I'd be able to empathize and I would know just what to do. And it's made him make better choices, not only in what he eats, but how he takes care of himself, how much sleep he gets, how much exercise he gets. Can you see how this could have been such a life-changing event for the worst? Poor me, I have to, give myself shots every day, and poor me, I don't fit in with my friends, I don't know anyone who's diabetic. Instead, he took the opportunity to really look inside himself and say, I'm going to use this experience to teach me how I can be more resilient. And it's just been such a blessing to watch that happen. So I think that's the key. We can see it in other people as well, and we can learn from their experiences. I feel like part of being resilient is also understanding who we can trust. Are you ever in a position where you feel like it's all on you and you have to make the decisions, and how am I going to overcome this? If you can even think of one person or two people that you can absolutely confide in and that will not be judgmental, won't tell you what to do, but they'll listen. They'll just be there to listen and to support you, to give you phone calls, to see how you're doing. Those are the kinds of people that people want to be friends with, is not advice givers, but listeners. And if you don't have friends like that, maybe seek out a counselor. There is absolutely nothing wrong. In fact, there's everything right with seeking out professional counseling when you can't see the pathway forward or when you need a new perspective. And it could be, one session, it could be 10, whatever you need. There should be no stigma around that, because in the end, we're all here to help each other and to support one another. So the last thing I want to talk about when we talk about resilience, and this is where your free ebook is coming in, is learning to let go of tension. Like my darling daughter-in-law who does yoga, I feel like every time she talks about yoga or every time I watch people do yoga, I feel this complete tension dissolve, right? And even when I was in some of her yoga classes, I felt the same thing. She had a way of really helping me to dissolve my tension. And this is a practice that, even though I don't do yoga, I can find in other ways. How do you relieve your tension? Why is that important when we talk about resilience? Well, letting go of tension allows you to have some quiet in your heart, right? It allows you to maybe look at things a little bit differently. And if all you do is doodle, take a piece of paper and a pen and just start doodling, get out of the crazy stories that you're telling yourself or the anxiety that you're feeling. Maybe it's just even, I've tried modeling clay, just touching modeling clay and moving it and creating something out of that. We are creators, friends. We are sent here to create. And there is something really special about turning, even I love taking pictures of nature and creating a collage. To me, that's creation. It's finding beauty in something that's really simple. Now, here's something I'll suggest to you, and this is what I want to give to you. When I feel tense, one of my biggest go-tos is to write, because I feel like writing just gets it out. Whether I'm upset about something or feeling sad about something, I'll start writing. And if I don't want to write about that thing because it's just too hard right then, what I'll do is I'll do a speed writing exercise where I'll take these speed writing prompts It could be something as simple as, what did you learn from, your mother as a teenager? Something, I mean, anything, just random things. And take 10 minutes and make yourself write for that 10 minutes. Write everything that comes to your mind. Write things that maybe don't even matter on that subject. But the act of creating something that is purely coming from your soul is going to be so tension dissolving for you. So I'm going to include this link for you as soon as this session is over today. So don't leave the session before you get this. I'm going to just put it in the comment section, the link, so that you can download this immediately. And this is what it looks like, if you can see it. It's called Conversation Starters and Speed Writing Prompts. And so not only do you can use over 100, 200 of these as speed writing prompts when you feel tense, but I have found that this has been such a gift as a conversation starter. All right, my cute friend that I keep bragging about gave me this lovely dish. And in this dish, I have all my little conversation starter prompts. How many of you have new people who come to your dinner table? For me, it was in-laws. I love my daughter-in-laws. They're darling. And in order not to make them feel uncomfortable by grilling them or asking them questions, what I love to do is have this conversation jar at the table. And then when we're all together and everyone participates, not just the girls, we ask a question that's so random that maybe I wouldn't even know about my own kids, but it gives the opportunity to just get to know each other on a more casual level. We laugh and we just learn things that we never knew about each other. So this you're gonna love. I think this is a great newlywed gift. I think this is great for, family reunions, whatever you can imagine. But when you have a lull in your conversation, pull out these conversation cards. I promise you, they will bring laughter, and it just eases the tension and makes everybody just kind of feel more relaxed. So I hope you'll take advantage of that. All right, friends, on to number 5. One of the greatest goals, or one of the greatest habits that we can set for ourselves, and I know again that all of you do this, is to volunteer. And why is it important for us to give back? Why is that such an important and healthy habit? Because it gets us out of ourselves. Again, it's something that relieves tension. I hear a lot of people say, I have really nothing to give. I have nothing to offer. Nobody's going to really like what I do, or I don't really have time to go and give. I can barely keep up with my full-time job and taking care of my family. Well, I think these are the people who need it the most. And do you remember how good it feels to actually serve people? And even if it's 1 hour of your time, you go away feeling so accomplished, but more than that, you feel like you've lifted someone, and there's something really special about that. And we're going to do a whole episode coming up on volunteering and how good it is for your heart. And how you look for volunteering opportunities. It's a whole other show. But I'm sure, because you are volunteers yourself, that you find joy in doing small things for other people. Some of my most memorable volunteer opportunities that I've taken are to go and help low-income families put their groceries together and just organize their food and take food off the shelves and see what they need and what's going to sustain them for the next 3 days. I mean, that brought joy. I was able to kind of get them out of their situation and talk to them and see how they're doing, and talk about things that don't matter in their situation, more about their kids or things like that maybe distracted them a little bit. Another thing that I recently did for about a year that I loved is just playing the piano in a hospital lounge. It was nothing special, and there were not a lot of people who would come in and out, but the ones who did, it was so special. I had one girl there who had been treated for, she was suicidal, and she had been there for I think 4 or 5 days. And when she came out and listened to the music, she approached me and she said, I was just in this psych ward, and this is what happened to me, and it reminded me that I love to sing. Is it okay if I sing with you? And her sweet brother was there to bring her home, and he had taken care of her the whole time, and he too sang. And I can't tell you the joy that it brought. I sat there and I played the piano. It was a simple song that we all knew, and she sang and he sang, and by the time we were done, there were just tears in her eyes. And she said, this was so healing for me. So I think sometimes even if people don't express that it's healing, I've gone into nursing homes sometimes just to read books. and they can't talk. They're probably in another world completely. But I think it's the act of doing it itself that helps you feel like you've made a difference. And you're developing talents or gifts or abilities that are good for you. So it's almost self-serving. It's almost, I feel like, a selfish thing because you get back so much more than you give. So I think volunteering and giving back really puts your life in perspective. It makes us grateful for the things that we do have and the things that we're grateful for instead of the things that we're lacking. I know a lot of people who go and help with kids with school and their homework and reading. I think that's incredible. And so find what brings you joy, even if it's just having a conversation. You don't have to bring anything. You don't have to have special skills. Just show up. Be present. There are so many online volunteer opportunities now where you can go and look for opportunities in your area, and you can just sign up. It could be a one-time event, or it could be an ongoing thing, but it brings so much joy to your life. And I think when you have joy and when you can create that habit, it just, again, it's that ripple effect in the world. All right, so let's talk now. We're almost done. We're getting ready. This is number 6. Being mindful of our health. Of course, this is a big topic, isn't it, with Simply Living Smart, and we love to focus on our health. And there are really 4 main aspects that I like to think about. I think foremost is sleep. There's not a lot of good that we can do in the world if we don't have sleep. So think about your sleep pattern. What are you doing to really improve your sleeping habits? Are you, and I'm not asking you directly, this is a rhetorical question, are we spending hours in front of the television before we go to bed, and so we're full of screen time? Are we on our phones till we drop, and fall asleep? Can we come up with a routine that is really kind of detoxing and quieting and nurturing so that when we go to sleep, we sleep deeply? I know a lot of people are dependent on sleep aids, sleep medicines. And I wonder if we shift in our day, could allow us to maybe wean ourselves off of those, because we do feel more inner peace and more calm. Again, this is where I think the writing practice at night could be really beneficial. And that's when I choose to write, is at night, because it just kind of gets everything out and it makes me feel like I can leave it alone and it's not gonna, wake me up during the middle of the night. Let's talk about exercise. Of course, exercise is important, whatever exercise you do. And it could be 20 minutes a day, it could be an hour a day, it could be 3 days a week, whatever is your habit. But exercising is it can bring such joy. Even if we have a goal, let's say to lose 10 pounds or 20 pounds or whatever we're doing, instead of focusing on that long-term goal, wouldn't it be great if we could just focus on that day or that session and say, oh, my body feels so much better today. I'm gonna love myself later in the afternoon when I wanna have, a piece of chocolate or something because I've already done my exercising. Or look how this is strengthening me. Or look how this is improving my posture, things like that. So exercise is really important. Of course, our nutrition. I mean, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't about nutrition, right? What are we doing to fuel this machine that is us? Are we really mindful about what we're putting into our bodies? And I love knowing that, we're going to be talking in one of these episodes about intuitive eating, how to ditch our diet and eat more intuitively. I'm so excited to share some ideas with you. And I find that when we allow ourselves to eat whatever our bodies feel like they need to have, it's okay. And I don't even like to use the word moderation, because you instinctively will know what is right and what is good for you, because your body will tell you. But I think let's be conscious of everything that goes into our mouth. Is it serving our purpose? Is it doing us well? Is it going to get us closer to the goals that we have set for ourselves? And if not, maybe let it go. And, I think that one of the most powerful things that we can do is to submit ourselves to situations where other people are maybe having donuts or cookies or whatever, and test our skill, test our willpower and say, maybe I won't allow myself to have it, today. But I just want to see how strong I can be, right? Just do it one time, just experiment and see where that power comes from, because it is in you, I promise. And when we repeat those things over and over and over again, sometimes we just feel like, you know what, we've done it so many times, it doesn't matter. And it's easy to say no. But allow yourself once in a while just to be naughty. And that's okay. That's part of life too, and not to feel guilty about it. Mental health is the last one I want to go over, because I think mental health is the giant, right? If you are not mentally well, your sleep doesn't go well, your eating pattern isn't well, your exercise isn't successful. So it's important that we work on our mental health. And the way I think that we can do that is to just be so mindful of, I think, what we do primarily in our free time. What do you do in your free time? I was so impressed the other day. I read, I love to read, but I especially was impressed with something I heard about Bill Gates. And of course, it's Bill Gates and all his free time. He reads 50 books a year. To me, that's one book a week. And his books are this big. If you've ever seen his book bag that he carries around everywhere, he says he always wants to make sure he has 8 books on hand. So imagine that. Imagine if in your free time you were constantly learning, developing a skill, something that is self-serving to your mental health. And I feel like if we take our free time, as little as it might be, or as big as it might be during our day, we focus on what is important to our mental health. It may just be as easy as getting out and taking a walk. It may be writing in a gratitude journal. It might be learning something that you've always wanted to learn. In my case, I feel so charged and so excited to learn new content that I can share with you, because I feel like that has improved my mental health. I don't feel like I'm in a slump if I'm learning. And I would challenge you to do the same. I know that you are like-minded people, and I know that you have a lot going on, and that you love to learn as well, or we wouldn't be here together. So, number 7, take responsibility for your thoughts and for your actions. Why is this so important? It's really easy, I think, in our life to blame situations or blame other people for what's not going right, instead of saying, you know what, everything that happens to me, I will take responsibility for my part, and I will be okay with it. I will be solutions minded, like we talked about before. I will be resilient. Let's not be a victim. Let's not place blame. I have a great example to share, because this is a lesson that I am still learning in my life, is to not take things so personally. I'm super, super sensitive. And the things that people say or the way that they react really gets to me. So I have to tell myself, okay, build your little plastic bubble around you. And if someone says something you don't agree with or that might be offensive, just imagine popping that little bubble and poof, it's gone, right? That's how I have to work through my emotions. So I'm going to share this experience. This was probably 6 months ago. And whenever my sons come home, what's the natural inclination that I have? Well, it's to feed them, of course, right? So I get super excited about nourishing the people who come to my home and giving them really yummy food. Well, my cute son came home and he was hungry. He hadn't had lunch. And I said, no problem. I'm so excited. I'm going to make you this great homemade bean burrito. Well, this is not just an average bean burrito. I do not take beans out of a can. I had spent time soaking them and pressure cooking them and adding just the right spices. And I thought it was out of this world, delicious and creamy. And they were still warm. And I thought, he's going to love the bean burrito. His reaction to, do you want a bean burrito, is, nah, that's okay, Mom. I'm not a fan of your bean burritos. I'll just go have something else. And what does he do? He walks into the pantry and opens a store-bought granola bar. Now, if I was mature and if I knew how to react better, I would have said, that is hilarious, poor thing. Of course he doesn't like beans. No big deal, that's his opinion. But what's the story that I told myself? The story I told myself was, you are such a loser, Mom. How can you not know that he doesn't like refried beans? Okay, you don't cook like his wife does. He's probably disappointed he came home in the first place. He rather would have granola bars any day over your homemade food. I mean, it's so ridiculous, right? I went into this huge story and I told myself that for 2 weeks, feeling so sorry for myself. And I felt so dumb and so childish. But I'm going to admit that that's what I did. I took it so personally. Instead of just saying, you know what, there are foods that I might not like. He was just brave and bold enough to just say, no thanks, Mom. And so we need to try not to get our feelings hurt. Am I the only sensitive one in the bunch? Because this happens a lot to me. But the times where I feel it coming, I have to always remind myself, Just put that little bubble around you, and as soon as you hear what's coming out of their mouth, all you have to do in your mind is poke the bubble, and it will be gone. So develop maybe something that helps you not to take offense. And I don't think that we can help being sensitive, because sometimes we just are, but don't let those things drag us down. Don't waste our energy thinking negative thoughts or judging people because they said something they never meant. I'm sure in a million years he would never want to hurt my feelings. He's just such a great kid. But at that moment, it hurt my feelings, and that was something that I needed to deal with, and that's ridiculous. So be your biggest cheerleader. Thank you for the love. Be your biggest cheerleader, and know that you're just human doing the best that you know how. I think we all are, and we need to give each other credit for that. Number 8, this is the last one. Do things that make you happy and eliminate the things that don't. I mean, that's so simple, right? Think of all the things that bring you joy, plan those in your life, and be intentional about executing them. If something doesn't make you happy, then don't do it. If it's something that you have to do, then find joy in it. Or think of another way. Maybe shift the whole paradigm and think of another way to get that thing done in a way that will bring you joy. This means getting rid of clutter, both in your mind, in your home, in your space, in your schedule. If you can declutter those parts of your life that are creating tension and frustration and anxiety, I promise you, because I've learned this, that you will feel much more joy, and you will feel that you have a lot more positive in your life than negative things. So learn to organize a life that's fulfilling and satisfying. It's all about being organized, isn't it? It's all about finding those things that work for us that we can go back to again and again just because they work. So one more time, we're going to go over this. These are the 8 amazing habits that we can develop to become more joyful, more consistent in our lives, and more confident in moving forward to execute our life goals. Number 1, have a vision for your future and set goals, whether they're long-term or short-term. Number 2, create healthy relationships. Number 3, express gratitude and appreciation. Number 4, have a positive attitude when things go bad. Number 5, learn to volunteer and give back. Number 6, be mindful of your mental, physical, and emotional health. Number 7, take rest for your thoughts, or to take responsibility, for your thoughts and for your actions. And number 8, do what you love and stop what you don't. So I hope that there's been at least one tiny little golden nugget that you've taken away, or at least some humor in my stories that I've shared, because I am learning, and I have so much to learn. But hopefully we can, band together and we can create habits for ourselves. And you probably have other habits that you use that create success in your life. But at the end of the day, it's all about finding our inner superpower. I think we can find those things that really are our strong suits and help ourselves get to the place where we want to be in a most joyful way. So I will leave that with you today. And just another reminder for all of you who are here, I'm just about to enter this link for our conversation starters and speed writing prompts into this live episode. You'll see the link right below. If for some reason you miss it, shoot me a quick email and I'll send it to you. But it's pages and pages, and you'll have so much fun. So print them off, rip them out. You can download it 3 times before it'll let you not download again. So you can make as many copies as you want. Feel free to share it with your friends and just take advantage of that nice little tip. So again, thanks for your support. I'm so excited to see you here again next week for another training, and you're going to love it. This time it's about energy boosting foods. So you're not going to want to miss it. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Enjoy the sunshine. And know that I'm thinking about you all the time, and would love to hear your feedback if you have things that you want us to discuss in these episodes. Okay, take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.